Welcome to today's video. We're going to go over the best books I have read in 2024. I want to preface this with I am considering 2024 from January 2024 to November 2024. I'm going to include anything I read in December of 2024 in my 2025 stats. And I'm doing this just so I can get this video up in a timely manner. I'm going to start with my favorite in each category, and then I will do a top 5 overall. The first category is fantasy, and my favorite is The Heartless Hunter by Kristen Cicerelli. This was a book of the month book that I picked strictly because of the cover. I think the cover is absolutely beautiful. The fact that I loved it so much is a plus. This is a witch hunt book. Rune is a crimson moth. She is helping other witches escape being hunted and killed. She ends up meeting one of the most notorious witch hunters, Gideon Sharp, and romance ensues. This is part of a series. This is the first in a Crimson Moth series. So there's the next one coming out, I believe, next year. I'm really excited for it. I had so much fun reading this book. I really enjoyed the characters. I don't know how to explain it, but I really enjoyed the characters. I really enjoyed the writing. And I had so much fun reading this. I'm really excited. So this would be my favorite in fantasy. The next category is fiction, and for some reason I can't find the actual book. I can just find the cover. My favorite is The Husbands by Holly Gramazio. I think this whole just like storyline and concept is so fun. There's a woman, Lauren, she comes home from a hen party. She's not married, but all of a sudden there's a man there. But then she quickly discovers that every time the men go up in the attic and they come back down, they change. I originally, when I picked this out, for some reason I was thinking it was romance. It's not. There's a dash of that in there, and I'm glad it's not. I think it's perfectly written as a fiction. It's a fun story. The main character's humorous and fun. It's a fun book to read, a fun concept, and I think it was really well done, and another book that was just a lot of fun to read. The next category is historical fiction. I only read 2 books in historical fiction, and neither one were like out of this world amazing. So kind of by default, the one that wins is I Must Betray You. This is based in 1989 with the fall of the communist regimes in Romania. This is definitely a very heartfelt book. It's well written. It's got good character development. There's nothing wrong with the book. I'm not typically one who really is a huge historical fiction fan, so I do think this is a well-written book. It definitely pulls at the heartstrings. I did like some of the facts about that I think you can kind of learn a little bit about what was happening at that time that maybe somebody, especially in the United States, probably doesn't know that well. It's a good book, and I would still recommend. I find it very interesting. The next category is horror. I only have a digital copy, but I have a feeling I would be buying this book, The Way to Blood by Tiffany D. Jackson. Wow, this is a Carrie retelling, and I like this better than the original Carrie. It is impactful. It is definite horror. It's actually a YA horror, and I think it stands on its own no matter whether it's YA or horror. I think people who aren't typically a YA fan but like horror will still enjoy this book. It's fast paced, character development's there, the plot line, the story, it's so well written and just very well done. I had a wonderful time reading this book. The next category is mystery thriller, and no surprise here, Ghost Island by Moxie. This is the 4th in the Jessica Niemi series. Pretty sure the 3rd in this series was probably on my top, or actually one of my favorites last year for mystery thriller. This is such a fun series. What I think he does really well with this one is he changes it up from the typical procedural or detective like the other ones where she's strictly investigating a murder. So Jessica is on an island called Ghost Island. She's there to kind of do some self-reflection. It's a really great way for us to learn a little bit more about Jessica, her past, who she is, and some of the struggles she's going through. There ends up being a murder, and needless to say, she gets sucked into investigation, but this does really well helping you learn more about Jessica, like I've said. Also getting some of that detective that I think most people with this series love, but there's also a sprinkle of a ghost story in there, and I think that's fun. I really hope he keeps coming out with more of these. I haven't seen any notices of a 5th one coming out, but I'm still hopeful. So another really great series just overall. The next category is nonfiction. I do need to make a special mention. Didn't actually read too many nonfictions this year. However, I read two that were just absolutely outstanding. So I want to make a mention of Somebody's Daughter by Ashley C. Ford. I would read that book at night because I like to read to put myself to bed. I would not go to bed. It was such an engrossing book. It was so good um, that I highly recommend that, and it absolutely deserves an honorable mention. But I'm going to go with my favorite is Sociopath. It's a memoir about Patricia's life as a sociopath. I found it absolutely enthralling. I was telling people to read it as I was reading it. The one great thing I think she does about this is she mixes telling the story of her life, but also just adding in facts and history and knowledge so that hopefully the reader can grow and understand, and it can have kind of a social impact in breaking negative stereotypes or just stereotypes in general, bringing awareness and knowledge to what sociopathy is, because as she points out, there's not a lot of studying, there's not a lot of understanding, but she does such a fabulous job. This is such a wonderful book, and I definitely think it's worth checking. The next category is romance. I did read quite a few romances in the 4-star category, so there's plenty to pick. But I have picked Off the Map by Trish Dollar. This is in the Beck Sister series. What made me choose these is I just loved the characters. Carla is grown up traveling with her dad. Now she's going over to Dublin for her best friend's wedding, meets a man, and they go on this wild adventure. I think that their chemistry is good. It's very sweet. I also appreciate that the struggles they have and kind of the big catalyst of their like breaking up and coming back together is almost relatable and realistic in the sense that you can understand how they got there and how they resolved it, and you don't have to necessarily suspend reality or get frustrated that like why are we doing this. I think she did that really well, but I just think the characters chemistry and it's got the right amount of comedy. They were a fun couple. I just really liked the characters as they were, and that's really what made me this one. The next category is science fiction, and no surprise, my favorite is The End of Men by Christina Sweeney Baird. This is there's a woman who has figured out that there's men keep coming in sick. They have what they call the plague, which is these flu-like symptoms, but they're only affecting men. And she's trying to alert people. They're not listening, and now it spreads worldwide, and there is a mass loss of men in the world. As somebody who has two brothers, dad, a husband, and three little boys, losing, a virus that would only affect men, that definitely pulled at my heartstrings. I like the format of this in that it comes from stories of the people on the front line, the people experiencing it. It also comes from letters and podcasts and news stories. So the different medias in which the story is presented is really well. And I also really enjoyed the thought process of some of the things that, and I don't want to spoil it because I think it's very interesting, but some of the things you don't think about, how would the world work with so few men in the world? How would that work? And I think that she discusses that really well and talks about those things in a, oh wow, that I think that was really interesting. I am ready to read this again. I was ready to reread as soon as I read it. This is definitely going to be going on the list of like frequent rereads. Such good. Next category is young adult, another one I do not have a copy of, but I can guarantee you I will be getting a copy of this one. This is They'll Never Catch Us by Jessica Goodman. Okay, so let's start with the premise. This is about a group of runners in a small town who have this really high expectation of performing, but also their town has a history of runners going missing, and now those things are happening again. I think it was fast paced, it was engaging, that you never felt it solved. I also think as a runner, the way they talk about running and their love of it, but also kind of that like inner turmoil and like struggles you can have with running, I think were so relatable as someone who's running. So I think that that also really just resonated with me and connected. They also talk about some really deep subjects that unfortunately people of that age are facing. And I think the author did a really handled talking about them and addressing them in an appropriate way for young adult. So overall, I just think this was a very well written, very engaging book that I highly recommend, even for somebody who likes mystery thriller but is not necessarily into YA. I think that this one could be another one that kind of borders who would like it. Now we're gonna go over the top 5 like favorite books overall. So just taking all of them. Again, I did take out rereads. I don't know if I said that, but I have taken out rereads. So this list is still not including rereads. But starting at number 5, my favorite was Sociopath. Just another really great, intriguing, just really well written, informative book. The next one, Ghost Island by Moxie. This is such a well done detective series. I really enjoy it, and I really enjoy the change up of this style from the others, but not losing any, I guess, integrity in the series that you may dislike it more. I think it stands on its own. The next one, Heartless Hunter. I just had so much fun reading this. I really enjoyed the characters. I think it was really well written, and I'm excited for it to be a series, or at least have another one, and I'm excited to read it, so highly recommend this. Number 2 is They'll Never Catch Us by Jessica Goodman. Just such a well done book in general, but even more phenomenal considering it's a YA. That may be a judgment. That's much just my opinion. I just think it was so well done, and I really enjoyed it. And my top one is The End of Men by Christina Sweeney Baird. This was just such a fascinating, intriguing book. I was hooked right away, and again, like I said, this will definitely be in my frequent rereads category. That is all that we have for our best of in 2024 books. I will be putting up a least favorite, so keep a lookout for that. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.